Hello, everybody. I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. The name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now, and if you're watching the phone right there for just a second. Anyway, now it's back. You'd be the balancing act I have to do for this phone. You would be impressed with it. I'm telling you that right now. Anyway, want to remind you, towards the end of this hour, I am going to be talking to Todd Shaughnessy of the Spartanburg Herald-Journal about the Big E basketball game tomorrow at 7 in Spartanburg between ETSU and this is a game that could easily determine, the number one seed in the Southern Conference. ETSU has won 11 in a row. Wofford has won 7. RPI, ETSU. Here's something here to think about. You know, I talk a lot about what would it ever take for ETSU to get an at-large bid to the tournament. I've got competition say, never happen. Oh, ye of little faith. I mean, look, before you start going, never happen, remember this. Remember when, well, maybe if you're a younger age group, you don't, but in the middle of the previous decade, a little over 10 years ago, so 12 years ago or so, 13, when ETSU was going to the Atlantic Sun Conference, ETSU tried to sell that to the fans by saying, hey, you know what, in 1993, the Atlantic Sun, it may have been the Trans-American back then, I forgive me, I don't know when they changed the name, but the Atlantic Sun got 2 bids to the NCAA tournament. Now, unfortunately, it should have been mentioned that I think both those teams had left the Atlantic Sun. I want to say they both went to the, I'm trying to remember, one of them was College of Charleston. But they had both, left the Atlantic Sun Conference. But the point was that, if 1993 Atlantic Sun can have 2 teams in, why can't near future Southern Conference have 2 teams? And now we've had Ken Pomeroy on this show, and he explains, look at Wichita State. Missouri Valley used to get, 2 teams in, but Wichita State's now in the American. The big conferences, they keep getting bigger. Okay, I don't think it's ever going to be in the cards. I think it could be in the cards for ETSU to grow in conference. That's a possibility. Although I'm not saying that they absolutely should, because I think the Southern Conference can grow as a conference. I mean, I think that it has tremendous growth potential, and including being a 2-bid league. I am intrigued to know, and I would like to, the way I look at the SoCon, certainly in basketball, right now, there are 4 pretty good teams currently this year. And now whether that stays on a year-to-year basis, but it seems to me right now that certainly Furman, certainly UNCG, Wofford and ETSU are pretty good. Mercer and Samford are not having good seasons this year, but I'm not sure that the programs are bad. For mid-majors, I would say that those 2 programs are good. I gotta figure that Chattanooga will be doing better than they are now in the future, and that's holding back the SoCon's RPI this year, which I think is 17. After last year, it was 15. And, Western Carolina is probably always going to be Western Carolina. VMI is probably always going to be VMI. I do think that with Duggar Bocom over there at Citadel, that high tempo, fast tempo style he plays, that could improve in the years ahead the Citadel a lot. Now, the Citadel's never made the NCAAs, so, how far can a military academy go? I get that. But I think the Citadel is on the improve, although their best player is no longer on the team this year. Well, by the way, Citadel, ETSU goes to Charleston on Monday. That's the game after Wofford that ETSU will play. So, and I'm trying to get Jeff, well, I'm not going to give you a sneak preview because I haven't heard back from him, but we'll see if we'll be talking obviously on Monday. We won't have Steve Forbes on, but we will have Forbes on later in the week, next week. Game day, they don't want to do the interview on a game day. We will then also have John Iamarino, the commissioner of the Southern Conference, on February the 2nd. So he'll tell us if the Groundhogs saw his shadow and the state of the conference. And I'll also be talking to him about, just what we heard here with the XFL. They want to change football. I want to ask why the Southern Conference couldn't improve timing rules in college football. What's preventing them? Why do the Southern Conference games have to have the same hash marks that the rest of the NCAA does? I want to see, what if they had the NFL hash marks, which are right in conjunction with the goalposts? I'm theorizing this. Wouldn't then the Southern Conference, wouldn't that be a tremendous advantage in recruiting? If I was recruiting a kicker against, I don't care who, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Southern California, I'm ETSU, and I can offer you a field, the hash marks, a style of play that is just the same as the NFL, and I'm a kicker. Why would I go to Southern California? Why would I go to Tennessee? Why wouldn't I go to ETSU? Let me just throw that out. These are questions I want to ask. What can be done to improve competitive balance from a commissioner's standpoint? I've asked him that before, but I want to ask him it again. Anyway, we'll be talking about that. How could he get 2 bids into the league? So we'll be looking at those things as well. There's a law that, I shouldn't say a law, excuse me. There was a bill. But today I am still just a bill. And it may stay that way, but in Illinois, there is a lawmaker who wishes to do away with tackle football for individuals 12 and under. The war on football continues. Her name is Carol Sennett. She is a Democrat out of the land of Lincoln, Illinois. That's a good football state. Here is what she has to say about no tackle football under 12.
The Duerson Act prevents a child under the age of 12 from playing tackle football in any organized youth sports organization.
Okay. So we hear from her there. That's the Dave Duerson. You'll remember that was a player for the Bears. He had CTE, if memory serves. So she goes on, talks about the tackle football risk.
Several published studies show that exposure to tackle football before the age of 12 is associated with greater risk of neurological impairment than exposure to tackle football starting at or after the age of 12.
Throwing that out there, she says it's going to protect children's brains.
It will continue to move Illinois in the direction of becoming a leader in the safety of children's brains. It is called the Dave Duerson Act to prevent CTE.
I got to tell you something. When I think of Illinois, I think of Chicago. I think maybe of Northwestern. I think maybe of Peoria. What else do I think of with Illinois? The state, I gotta be honest, the state, I think of Chicago with Illinois. But I do think of it, it's one of the better football states. I never think of Illinois as being, I think of the Blues Brothers, okay? I'd love to give you that. But I never think of Illinois as being the leader in children's brain health. What causes a state to be a leader of children's brain health? Let's see here. But, by the way, it's called the Dave Duerson Act, and Treg Duerson, who played football, by the way, at Notre Dame, is, he's being part of the PR of this bill, and this is what he talks about it.
Research on CTE has helped us better understand his past strange behavior, the times when he was ashamed by his forgetfulness and confusion, and the times when he was overwhelmed with anger and depression.
Okay. Couple of thoughts here. First of all, I honestly do think that this is much to do about nothing, because although I think you can keep, I do think you can keep beer away from people under 21 to a certain extent by, carding and all that. Yes, I know. I mean, obviously people go under 21, they, get access to it at parties. They, give some guy outside a convenience store $5 to buy it for him, whatever, we get that. But, there is a limitation when you have to card. Same thing with cigarettes or chewing tobacco or whatever. When you have to card, and by the way, I am not proud of this, but I will tell you that I did buy over-the-counter chewing tobacco at the age of 12. Okay? You wanted to be like ball player, or was it 13 or so? But I would buy, and this is in the 80s. I mean, when you had warning labels on cigarettes. So, but it was, you want to be grown up and all that. Could I have bought cigarettes at that time? I don't know. Certainly if I lived in North Carolina. Now I remember, our family was just shocked the one year we lived in North Carolina. They let children smoke cigarettes in school. Yeah, you were allowed 3 cigarettes at Brevard High School to smoke on a day, and if you were in high school. I mean, it's North Carolina, And I believe there were schools around here that did the same thing. University, you couldn't. I went to University High, but there were some other schools, I think, certainly in more rural areas where you had smoking pits, And you know what? I come to think of it, junior year playing baseball at University High, ball players, we chewed tobacco. Not proud of it. Shouldn't do it. But we were, Anyway, hopefully I won't die young because of it. That's all I can say. I may. I'm real smart, huh? But, so what I'm getting to is that there are certain things that you can prevent youth. I think the legalization of drugs, I've never really been for that because I do think there's a taboo. And I do think that there is going to be less drug use if you don't have a pot store like you do in, say, Colorado. I mean, it's just that if I've got to go get some dealer or something like that, Now, I realize it's not taxed, and all that I get. But at the same time, I just think that you're better off with less use of marijuana than more. Right? Okay. And certainly with youth. Here's the thing you're never going to be able to ban. And that's kids playing in a yard, throwing a football around, boys wanting to be boys. They want their aggression. Let's play tackle. No football suit on them. You're never going to undo that at the age of 12. Now, I don't know, maybe you could argue, well, if you have less pee-wee participation, then you won't have as many kids playing in the backyard. I don't know, as long as you have it on TV, I mean, it's still popular and all this. Certainly we played, baseball, basketball, obviously, we played all sorts of sports in the backyard, or on the driveway with a basketball hoop, as the case may be. But anyway, I don't see how the law is going to prevent that, and nor do I think that you should be able to prevent that. Safety of youth, that's big time. I understand. I think that you're putting a stigma on football that maybe shouldn't quite be there. I'll also point this out. The league, or this bill they tried this in New York in 2016, and it failed miserably. Now, I don't know. I don't know what the makeup of the Illinois legislature is versus the makeup of New York. I really don't. I would imagine if it didn't pass in New York, Illinois would be much the same. I mean, they're both quote-unquote blue states, are they not? But I would point this, and, you'd think, oh, wouldn't that, if it's a blue state, wouldn't that cause momentum for the bill? It's probably why the bill was introduced there and not, say, Tennessee or Texas. Don't get me wrong. But if it didn't pass in one blue state, is it going to pass in the other, is my question. Especially since they have, pro football teams, football very popular. Really both college and pro are both popular in New York and Illinois. I mean, no, really, you've got the Big Ten in Illinois, and you've got, Syracuse. I mean, that's not, Army is played in New York and all that. They may not be, drawing 100,000 fans or so. The Ivy League, but these are popular college football entities. Perhaps not the most popular, but popular nevertheless. They call it the Dave Duerson. I don't know. I mean, I kind of think it'll probably die, but the quote-unquote war on football is furthermore, it is even gaining momentum. I would say this, if this passes, that is going to be a big domino. Because I wonder how many other school districts, what with the cost and with the insurance and with having to teach kids, right off at the age of 13, are going to want to continue to have football programs, especially if they're losing football programs. I can easily see if this passes, that's a domino, that's a step, that's a statement. You're breaking bodies, not building minds. And since football is still, that's the number one school sport, I could easily see where if this passes, some, high schools in Illinois, or middle schools as the case may be, start saying, well, do we want to continue to do this then to people over 13? That's what you got to look out for. Tri-City Sports Now, we will continue. Some SEC news, some coaching changes. I'll tell you about it when we return. Tri-City Sports Now.